Thank you very much, Mike, for inviting me here. I was here last year. We had a great time. And as he mentioned, Professor Barbara Stone was my professor at Cal State Fullerton and my mentor, and really gave me my love for California politics. So thank you very much for that. And of course, Supervisor Catherine Barger, who has the patience of Job to sit on the LA County Board of Supervisors and be the blonde girl of Munsters with that group. So thank you for all that you do. The big news here in California right now is this U.S. Senate seat that is up for grabs in November of 2024. And that is a race that has seen so many twists and turns. Of course, there was a vacancy created when Dianne Feinstein, the longtime incumbent, passed away at the age of 90, which has many people here in the state of California extremely upset. Especially those who had Mitch McConnell in their death pool. This week, Dodger great Steve Garvey, I don't know if you saw this, but Steve Garvey is now officially throwing his hat in the ring as a Republican. He will be running for this U.S. Senate seat. And this will be the first time since Caitlyn Jenner that a sports star in the state of California has run statewide. Caitlyn, of course, ran in the recall election. She was unsuccessful, but that, had to be a very big decision for her. In fact, I think the last big decision that Caitlyn Jenner had, her name was Bruce. Caitlyn, of course, is now a commentator on the Fox News channel, where she offers her insight on the subjects of the day. And I think she does a bang-up job, and she's on all the time on all the shows. Now that Caitlyn has a woman's prerogative, boy, does she have opinions on everything. Prior to Steve Garvey jumping in the race, what shuffled the deck the first time was when Gavin Newsom went back on his word. Gavin Newsom said that he would appoint a caretaker to that position. He would appoint someone who would just serve out the remainder of the term and would pledge not to run for a full term. Then he developed all kinds of heat, namely coming from Barbara Lee. And he changed his mind. And he decided that he would give the nomination, or give the appointment, I guess I should say, to someone with no strings attached. He did that. He did it to LaFonza Butler, who has never run for public office before. She's a lobbyist for the abortion industry. She is a former union boss here in California, and she is a Maryland resident and a Maryland registered voter at the time that she was appointed to office. In fact, the only proof of California residency that she had was she had kale in the fridge and a yoga mat in the car. Newsom decided that he would appoint Butler, who is a black female lesbian, to that position because he wanted to make history. He wanted to break barriers. And he was looking for what barriers he could possibly break. I guess he could have appointed George Gascon, who he initially appointed to be the district attorney in Los Angeles, or in San Francisco County. But since Pennsylvania elected John Fetterman to the U.S. Senate, we've already had someone serving in the Senate with brain damage, so we don't need to. There you go. The current candidates running for office are not happy with Gavin Newsom and what he did, as you can imagine. And I'm sure somewhere out there, Rod Blagojevich is just saying, why didn't you just sell it? The list of angry parties includes Burbank Congressman Adam Schiff, who says that he is in possession of conclusive, irrefutable proof that he should be a U.S. Senator. He just won't show us. And then you have Orange County Congresswoman Katie Porter. She's running for that seat too. She's hoping that voters will look past allegations of domestic violence that her ex-husband accused her of. Among those allegations, he accused her of taking a pot of boiling hot potatoes and dumping it on his head. She's kind of the Julio Arias of this race. She can throw a fastball right over the plate, but your relationship is going to end in a 911 call. Then we have Oakland Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who thinks that the entire state should be run like Oakland. Oakland is a city where the 911 system doesn't work regularly. They haven't had a police chief for almost a year. And when the state made grant money available to them so they could use it to deal with retail theft, they forgot to fill out the paperwork and turn it in. In her mind, it's not good enough for all of us to live in a zombie apocalypse movie. She wants us to live in the Purge. If a Republican lawmaker, a Republican candidate, makes the ballot in November, voters in California will actually have a choice based on public policy and not based on which personality offends them the least. The state of California cannot be fixed without a strong, healthy, robust California Republican Party. If we don't have that, this state will not function. And what will happen is that other people will fill the void, namely bad actors. Last week, as all of you know, Hamas launched a terrorist attack against the state of Israel. Over 1,200 people are dead, thousands are injured, and many are kidnapped and have not been returned to safety. Recently, Hamas said that if their demands are not met, they're going to start to execute the hostages. In response, the Democratic Socialists of America held rallies around the country, including right here in California, praising the terrorists. We now live in a world where anything that the left doesn't like is Hitler. Donald Trump is Hitler. You vote a way they don't like, you're Hitler. You tell a joke they don't like, you're Hitler. But the indiscriminate massacre of Jews, that's fine. Words have lost all meaning. Everything is Hitler but Hitler. The DSA is not an obscure group either. I mean, maybe we're not aware of it because we don't float in those circles. But listen to this. Among their membership is 6 members of the House of Representatives, including AOC, 3 members of the Los Angeles City Council, and Mike Bonham, who just left the council, so 4 in recent memory. 2 members of the California State Legislature, including one who defeated a Republican incumbent, Suzanne Martinez Valadares, in the San Fernando Valley. In addition, LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, her political roots run through that organization, as does Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon, and the daughter of the owner of the Los Angeles Times, Nika Sunshan. After those Israelis, those 1,200 Israelis, were massacred by terrorists, this was the headline on the front page of the Los Angeles Times. Quote, Israel, Hamas toll rises over 1,100. That was their headline. And they used a picture of a dead child of Hamas as the picture on the cover of the paper. This, of course, is the paper that declared Larry Elder to be the black face of white supremacy. What do you expect out of them? This is who has power right now in the state of California. These aren't your father's New Deal Democrats. These are very different people. And take for 1 second their perverted logic and apply it to all of the problems that are plaguing California right now. Whether it's closing Men's Central Jail, no cash bail, not wanting to punish fentanyl dealers, not wanting to punish sex traffickers. They're applying the same logic that they use to defend Hamas to take these outrageous positions on all of these subjects. In San Francisco, over the last 18 months, exactly 1 person has been convicted of dealing fentanyl. That is it. If we as California Republicans don't find a way to start winning elections, there's going to be nothing left. The good part is, I don't think most normal, average people in California think like this. The electeds do, and the loudest voices in the room do, but I don't think the average person does. So that means there are points of opportunity for us. There are people that we can convert. There are people that we can talk to who are rational about it. And one of the things I think that California Republicans have to do is they have to stop making the perfect the enemy of the good. Sometimes I'll have a politician on the show. We'll talk about the subjects that are going on. Sometimes it's Supervisor Barger. And I'll get a bunch of email from people who are listening who are upset that they weren't fire-breathing enough. Well, she's 1 vote out of 5, and you need 3 votes to get anything done. If she's in the room making the arguments and keeping a good enough relationship with her colleagues so they pay attention to her, for us, that's gold. They're not going to listen to her every time, but if it weren't for her, the fake doctor, Barbara Ferrer, would have reimposed a mask mandate on the people of Los Angeles County. And she went to those meetings, and she asked the right questions, and she shamed her colleagues into going the right way. If that didn't happen, and you didn't have her back, Ferrer would have won. The other thing that I think that's important for Republicans in California is that the top 3 issues are crime, crime, and crime. Everybody understands it. It's not complicated. It's not something you have to explain to people. They see it in their day-to-day life. Sometimes when it's a slow news cycle, I'll just open up the phone lines. Have you been the victim of a crime in the last year in California? And oh my God, my board blows up like a Christmas tree. And they're all of different ages, and they're from different geographic points in the area, and they all have different accents, but they all understand that Southern California is just not safe right now. And this is not the first time that the state of California has been in danger of going off the cliff, where California Republicans were the ones that saved us from going off the cliff. The first time it happened was when we joined the Union. If you've ever been to Northern California, you know Fremont is a city up there. It's named after John C. Fremont, who was the explorer who brought California into the Union. He was the first U.S. Senator from California. His wife was the daughter of an abolitionist U.S. Senator from Missouri, Jesse Benton Fremont. And when California was brought into the Union, California was a lot back then like it is today. People were from all over. You had people from the Middle West, you had people from the Northeast, you had people from the South, the Deep South, including former members of Congress, people from Hawaii, Native Americans, the Native Californians who were the Mexicans. We had people from all over. And when California had their constitutional convention and joined the Union, the nation was getting ready to break apart. That was when things were extremely tense over the subject of slavery. California, led by John C. Fremont, who was the first Republican nominee for president, I might add, ever in the history of the party, came into the Union as a free state. We were the first state to join the Union that didn't have to have a corresponding slave state join at the same time. By coming into the Union as a free state, we gave abolitionists an electoral majority in the country, a majority in the United States Senate, and a majority in the House of Representatives. And when we had our constitutional convention, it was almost unanimous when they took the vote on the subject. Some had moral objections to slavery. Some had legal objections to slavery. And nobody wanted people coming into the state with slaves to take up all the gold out of the ground. That they could all agree on. And because of California, the nation was on a course now to make slavery illegal, and it led the way for the Emancipation Proclamation, and our electoral votes went to Abraham Lincoln. Without the state of California, and without California Republicans, that would likely not have happened. The second example is more recent, although still a long time ago, and that was during the Great Depression. And the Democrats nominated a socialist as their candidate for governor, Upton Sinclair. He wrote The Jungle. And he wasn't a socialist like we think of socialists today. We think of Bernie Sanders, AOC, those types of people. No, he believed that the state should own the means of production. He wanted the state to take over the farms. He wanted the state to take over the movie industry. He wanted the state to take over the factories. He did not believe in private property. He wanted the state of California to own all of it. And the plan was called the EPIC program, End Poverty in California. And all the polls showed he was going to win the election. And the Republicans, we had an awful candidate back then too. He was the lieutenant governor who took over when the governor died, and the guy had no political skills at all. But what saved us was not even our electeds back then. What saved us was Republicans who ran institutions that got involved and understood what kind of damage this guy would do to the state, and they wouldn't let it happen. It was William Randolph Hearst. It was the Chandler family, back when the LA Times was actually helpful. It was Louis B. Mayer, who was once chairman of the California Republican Party, MGM, Golden Mayer. And the three of them used their newspapers, used their production houses to kneecap this guy. And the Republican ended up winning the election, and we didn't take all of this private property and all of these private businesses and destroy them by giving them to the state of California. Can you imagine what the movies would look like if the DMV made them? But in each instance, we were this close to going off the cliff. This close. And then, like, angels above us. I mean, Los Angeles is named after the angels. We were saved from going off that cliff. And it wasn't the Democratic Party that did it. It wasn't decline to states that did it. It was the California Republican Party who did it. If we could do it back in the 1800s, and we can do it during the Depression, we can certainly do it today. Unfortunately, we don't own the LA Times, we don't own the syndicated papers, and we have no control over the production houses. So we can't leave it up to them to do it. That's where you come into play. We're doing it a different way. You have to fight the battle however it is that you can, and you have to play the hand of cards that are dealt to you. Your work, your sacrifice, and in local government that's what it is. It's a lot of headaches and not a lot of reward. And I know many of you put so many hours into it, and it costs you money. You don't make money on it at the local level. But I just want to thank you for all that you do, because California is in danger of going off the cliff again, but you're the ones who are going to end up saving us. So thank you so much.